Welcome into episode 76 of The Checklist, brought to you by SecureMac. I'm Ken Ray.
I'm Nicholas Raba.
And I'm Nicholas Tachek.
In 2007, Apple changed the world by introducing the iPhone. A phone, an iPod, and an internet communicator. iPhone made fairly short work of the iPod, and whether Apple meant to, for many people it also killed the watch. So what a surprise, a few years later, when Apple brought the watch back to life. Like the convergent device that is iPhone, Apple Watch does a lot more than tell the time. You can track workouts, receive messages, unlock your computer, unlock your hotel room in some cases. Apple Watch can literally save your life. So how do we keep a thing so small and so powerful safe? And what does Apple Watch do to keep us safe? You've likely figured out we're looking at Apple Watch security and privacy today. Items on the checklist, your passcode and security, what happens when an Apple Watch goes missing, notifications and prying eyes, privacy settings and what you share with Apple Watch, and finally, how the Apple Watch can help keep you physically safe. So let's start, as we often do, with your passcode. No, I'm not going to say your birthday. No, I'm not going to say the last four of your social. I'm just going to say, let's start with your passcode.
As is the same with your iPhone, if anyone gets their hands on your Apple Watch, your passcode is your first line of defense to keep strangers out of your data. The Apple Watch does come with a few options as far as passcodes are concerned. You can go without one, but please don't do that. Because what if somebody finds or walks off with your watch? Or if you leave it behind at a TSA checkpoint at the airport? You kind of need something protecting that data that is on your device. The default is still a simple passcode, 4 digits. Disabling simple passcode would allow you to actually extend your options and length as far as the passcode goes. And if you're always wearing the watch, except for when you're charging it at night or whatever, enter a longer and more secure passcode. It's probably doable. If you're doing it once a day, you're not re-entering it over and over again every time you want to access the watch. As long as it's on your wrist, it's staying unlocked. Now, you also, instead of just using a passcode on your watch, you can actually set it up to be unlocked with your iPhone itself, which I believe might be the case if you have one of the longer passcodes. If you have the 4 digits, you can enter it just on your watch. I believe if you do a longer one, you actually have to enter it on your phone because, numbers are easy to enter on the phone, but letters and all that other stuff is a little more difficult. But actually, with the release of the Series 3 Apple Watch was when the watch could kind of be autonomous and didn't need a phone, but any of the watches before that actually did require a phone for full functionality. So you'd normally have your phone somewhat around when you had your watch around. So in the morning, at least, if you pick up your phone, unlock your phone, your watch already on your wrist, it would unlock it. So that can be really handy. And you can check the options and the settings for the passcodes under the watch app on your iPhone and on the watch itself. But it's a nice feature. I do have that one enabled on my phone or on my Apple Watch, where my phone will actually unlock it for me. And it's just a matter of whether or not I get to my watch or my phone first in the morning, as far as, if I'm entering my passcode on my watch or not. Now, another aspect of the way the passcode works is that ties into erasing data. So if you input the wrong passcode 10 times in a row and you have the option enabled, it will wipe your Apple Watch and erase all the data. And that is a security feature in case your device is stolen. But if you have kids, you most likely don't want that enabled. In my family, we have had that experience on both the watch and the phone before, where we've gotten locked out of the device for whatever time period because the kids are trying to get into the devices and hitting random gibberish. And I did not have the wipe on my phone specifically for that case, because we would have lost our data a bunch of times at this point. Now, if you are the only one in your family and you're the only one wearing your watch and you don't have kids who are playing with it, it might be a good idea to turn on that feature, especially if you have any data on your watch that could be sensitive for work or anything else like that.
See, I thought the whole thing of the watch is it's totally personal. You're not going to share it with your kids. But once again, I was proven wrong here because that Disney watch face on there.
Mickey Mouse?
The Mickey Mouse or the Pixar? Or both?
Both of them?
Yeah.
Both of them, my son really adores. So my wife ends up taking off her watch, and, my son goes, I want to wear your TikTok. Yeah, that's what he says for watch, yeah.
Right,
He's still a little kid, though. But he will go around playing with it, and then when the screen comes up to enter the passcode, yeah, he loves pressing all those buttons. So,
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah, kids prove me wrong again.
I'm really curious how your child learned that a watch used to make the tick-tock sound. But, we can talk about that some other time if you want to.
That's the grandfather clock in the house.
See, here's the thing. I thought you were going to say, because a couple of weeks ago, you talked about the same child losing cases left, right, and center for your AirPods. I thought you were going to say that, he takes your Apple Watch and you never see it again. Let's talk about what happens when an Apple Watch goes missing.
Yeah, so suppose you did forget your watch somewhere or it was stolen. You could use your iPhone to help get it back or lock it out if it's stolen. Under the Watch app on your iPhone, if you click on the Apple Watch and click on the information button, that little eye, here you can find the settings for the Find My iPhone. And from here, you could ping its last location. If you have cellular enabled on it, you'll be able to see where it is as well. If it's on the Wi-Fi network or whatnot, you can enable lost mode, which will allow you to send a message that the device is lost. But also when you do that, it deactivates your Apple Pay. So somebody isn't just going to be charging up your linked cards or your accounts or have access to that information on there. And of course, as a last resort, if your device is lost, you can erase it remotely when it connects to Wi-Fi, or if it's on the cellular. And of course, with all of this, you had your passcode enabled, so it's harder for whoever has your device to gain access to it in the first place.
What happens when as a last resort, you can erase the watch remotely when it connects to Wi-Fi or cellular. Have I taken it back to factory settings at that point? I mean, have I basically just given somebody an Apple Watch?
Yeah, if it works the same way the iPhone does, is you can only use stuff like Find My iPhone and lost mode and all that stuff up until the point where you say, okay, I'm just erasing the device. I'm considering it, it's gone for good. Once you erase it, yeah, it's like a factory mode reset. All your data's gone on the device. You can no longer use Find My iPhone to locate the device. So yeah, you're kind of just handing it over to whoever.
But is it actually saying, welcome to your brand new iPhone, or is it saying this phone is lost or stolen, go to the Apple store?
I haven't actually tested myself. I want to say that it still has the activation lock there.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because that's the only thing that really makes, yeah.
Because otherwise, you could just be sitting on a bunch of Apple Watches waiting for people to get so frustrated that they reset them for you, which would be, that'd be kind of ridiculous. So, I know that there's a certain amount of insurance that you can buy with an Apple Watch or with an iPhone. It's Apple Care. But that's really just repair stuff, right? Like if I lose my watch, that's on me. That's not covered by Apple Care.
Hey Apple, I lost my Edition watch. I need a replacement.
Right.
Well, what about
covers that, right?
What about if the band broke? I'm sure that's covered under Apple Care, and then because it broke, it fell off and it is now lost. That's covered, right? Well, even if that isn't, and I'm not going to go test it myself, if you did buy it with a credit card, many credit cards offer some sort of protection themselves against lost or stolen items. So it's always good to know what your credit cards are offering and for how long it's offering it. I've used that before. I had one of our cars broken into, and one of my iPods was stolen. So it helped me out in that case. And of course, the insurance companies don't really care about what's stolen from your car. So the fact that I used a certain credit card for it definitely did help me out.
Just so we're 100% clear, though, I mean, you were joking about if the watch band breaks, then Apple Care covers it. No. Apple Care does not cover anything like loss or something being stolen. AppleCare covers, oh, I chipped my screen, or oh, the back of it's popping off for some reason. That, I mean, it's defects or problems with the hardware itself, not I don't know where my hardware is.
Yeah, the only time AppleCare will cover lost hardware is in the case of if you've lost a single earpod, if you've lost a single AirPod,
right.
They'll cover the replacement of that, and you still have to pay. You pay for it essentially for the single one. You're not getting, free. Oh, hey, I lost one AirPod. Oh, hey, I lost the other one. I've got a free set. And it doesn't work like that.
In my hand, I am holding the one AirPod. My son still has the other in the case, so I'm going to have to figure that out here soon.
However, as far as loss and theft goes, check also if you have homeowners insurance or renter's insurance. A lot of times those policies will cover items like that. You have to make sure you register the said watch with your renter's insurance or your homeowner's insurance, though. You can't really claim after the fact, oh yeah, I had a watch and I lost it. I didn't tell you guys about it. So make sure you're registering stuff with your insurance, but check with your insurance because a lot of time it is covered under some plans.
So we've talked a lot about the fact that, okay, so there's the information that your watch will share with you, your messages, your, health notifications, news, things like that. You've also, of course, got the fact that you punch in your passcode on your Apple screen or on your Apple Watch screen. Talk to me about notifications and basically making sure that I'm the only person who sees them.
Yeah, well, on Apple Watch, notification alerts will appear if you're wearing the watch and it's unlocked. If you are not wearing your watch, if it's sitting on the charger or if it's locked, the notifications it'll say it's a notification, but it won't actually show anything. They also won't appear on the watch if you're actively using your iPhone, which is, less distractions and, you're not getting pinged on multiple devices with the same message. But depending on what is coming in for a notification, it can actually be pretty important. Might not be just a notification that your friend just posted some new picture of their cat on Instagram. It might be a reminder that you need to take your medication or make a business call or follow up with somebody important. Those are all kind of personal things. And you can enable notification privacy settings too if you want, where the notification won't just be sitting there on your watch. Say if you're wearing your watch on your wrist, and a notification comes in and the watch is awake, if you move your wrist, it'll kind of show up on the screen. You can actually set something to only appear when you tap the alert. So if you don't want your watch kind of showing some alert that you just haven't had time to dismiss, you can actually kind of get a little bit more fine-grained control over that.
I was going to say there's a way, I believe there's a way that you can either have it just tell you, hey, you've got a message, and then you tap on that and you can see what the message is, or if you're not privacy concerned, then you can just have it just show the message on the screen.
And you can actually, it's kind of a more recent thing in the past couple of versions of iOS, but you can actually, and watchOS, I suppose, you can customize it on a per app basis now. So if you don't care about your Instagram alerts, you can, hey, I want those to come in and show up right away. But if you care about your reminders or whatever, you can actually change the preview, the notification preview setting on a per app basis. Which enables what you just said, where you have to tap it to see the actual alert. And then another thing to note is that a lot of these notification settings will show as an option mirror iPhone, and that means that whatever setting you have configured on your iPhone, it'll follow suit on your Apple Watch, so you can customize things there as well. So you're not having to do it in a bunch of different places.
So sort of along the same lines, I mean, that was about what you physically share. Like if I'm sitting across the table from you having coffee, have I set up my watch so that you can see what's on my screen, or have I set up my watch so that only I can see it under controlled circumstances? Sort of a bit more theoretical, I suppose, but along a similar line. Talk to me about the privacy settings in the watch itself, particularly what kind of information I'm sharing just by wanting to know. Well, I was going to say wanting to know what time it is, but anybody knows what time it is. What kind of information am I sharing having all this information on my wrist?
Well, we'll hit quickly on what's shared between your watch and your phone, then go deeper with third parties and who you might be sharing information with. Now, the location services, contacts, the analytics, and the health data are shared between the watch and the iPhone. When you make a change on one device, it's changing it on the other. And you could change and manage these settings in the privacy section of the iPhone settings. We've talked about these before, so we won't go deep into it now, but take a look at the settings within your iOS device. You're going to see all different information here, and a lot of it you're probably going to be surprised with, and you're probably going to wonder why some of these apps want access to your camera or your microphone. And you could toggle these settings here, so that's definitely something worthwhile taking a look at when you're bored at your next doctor's appointment. Speaking of doctor's appointment, let's talk about privacy concerns with health data. Now, these watches are huge for people who want to stay fit, or at least thought about staying fit. Well, for me, it was the next level for the Nike Fuel Band or Fitbit. These watches have a lot of technology built in that it's constantly logging, from heart rates that are using the internal sensors to calculate things like calorie burn, the highs and lows of your heart rate. It's constantly logging this data if you haven't enabled. One of the cool things is fitness tracking. It's logging your body movement, step count, calories burned, and fitness level. My watch just went off here, told me it's time to stand up. But of course, I've been standing recording this podcast the whole time. So that's taken care of. And it's natural to think that you want all this stuff logged. I mean, it's one of the reasons why you bought the watch, right? But keep in mind, as you're compiling your own list of health data that is totally private for you and for your doctor if you have concerns, is it all private? I mean, a lot of logging is going on. What was it? Most recently, within the last couple of weeks, I've seen it on the news. The guy had his electronics being used against him in court. Now, I don't remember if the guy was considered a criminal or did wrong, but I do remember his watch, the step count, the heart rate. They were being used to show that he was or wasn't at a crime scene.
Yeah, I want to say he was hiding a body.
Yeah.
I know the story you're talking about. There's a more recent one, though, that's kind of weird, and I hesitate to bring it up because the story just broke. As we record this, the story just broke in the last 24 hours, but you heard about the fitness app, the Strava app,
Yeah.
right? That's apparently showing counterintelligence where secret army bases are.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, which I want to say, so that's a better thing about Apple Watch, except, of course, you can run Strava apps on your iOS ecosystem. But that goes more into the privacy, like Apple's privacy and Apple saying your information is just between us and you and your doctor if you choose to share it with them. I mean, that's one cool thing about, I guess, Apple's attention to privacy. They're not showing secret bases, places by default.
I guess with the Strava thing, there was an opt-out, but it was opt-out. It wasn't an opt-in. Like Apple, I believe, like by default, they're like, your data's private. You have to opt into sharing with whoever. And with some of these other apps, it's like, oh no, your data is ours and we'll publish it publicly unless you opt out. So in that case, you could actually, I guess you could see people's homes, stuff like that. It was kind of crazy. It's all data being shared from your device. Again,
though, it wasn't showing individual users. The problem is, like, the one thing I saw in the news was like, yeah, so there are these places where it's desert and there's absolutely no activity except for this one hotspot that it turns out is a possibly, and it hasn't been confirmed, but it's possibly military bases that nobody knew about. Or even if it's a military base that somebody knew about, it's actually showing, oh, this is where everybody runs, and this is where everybody's run starts and ends, so that's probably their barracks. I mean, it's a weird thing about the level of information. And again, I mean, let's stress this. We're talking specifically about Apple Watch. By default, Apple Watch is not set up to share this kind of information publicly. But Apple Watch does also run apps. And so you do have to keep an eye not only on what kind of information you are sharing with whom, but what third parties are looking at and sharing as well, right?
Wait, I thought all these black sites were supposed to have all the GPS blocked and everything, and they were supposed to be all safe and secure, and nobody would know anything about them.
And then you see the running track in the middle of the desert with nothing else around it.
See, that's the thing. I got to figure that there's, I mean, I'm assuming that several layers of something did not happen here.
Yeah.
Like I would guess that maybe these people on these bases shouldn't actually be using some of the apps that they're using, but it's consumer electronics, and so they are, and probably not nefariously. I don't think they said, I'll show them, I'll use this Strava app anyway. It's probably just like didn't even think about it. Same thing with the whole opt-out, opt-in thing, right? I mean, it's the fine print that nobody reads because they're in a hurry to go running.
Exactly.
I have a feeling many of these maps in the upcoming months are going to be very dark as new rules are put in place that none of these devices may be used anymore. Everybody will forget about it. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure you're being a little bit of a Pollyanna about that, but I'm not 100%. All right, so we talked about getting healthier with your Apple Watch. We've talked about keeping the information on your watch safe by making sure you have at the very least a 4-digit code, if not a longer code, to keep it safer. Let's talk about what the watch can do to keep me safe. And I don't just mean get me healthier. I mean, something bad has happened. Thank goodness I have my Apple Watch.
Yeah, just like the iPhone, Apple Watch also has an SOS emergency functionality. You can make emergency calls with it. Just press and hold the side button until the slider appears and drag the emergency SOS slider to the right. And the Apple Watch will then call the emergency services specific to your region. So in the United States, it's going to call 911. In whatever other country, it will call that emergency service. And then after the call is over, the Apple Watch can alert your emergency contacts that you made a call and will send them to your current location, your current location if it's available. And so that lets your loved ones know, oh, hey, there's something wrong. Here's their location. They already called 911. And you can also, if you keep holding down the side button, once you pressed it on the Apple Watch, it will beep and start a countdown. And it will beep even if it's in silent mode. So if you're in an emergency situation where you don't want to make any noise, if you're hiding somewhere, you'd want to use the emergency SOS slider to call emergency services without that countdown.
Now, quick question here. Do you have to have cellular enabled on it? Is it syncing with your iPhone, so that function's only available with your iPhone? Or other than accidentally triggering it and...
I don't have a cellular Apple Watch, so I'm in my case, it would just be talking with the iPhone. And even so, if I was trying to keep quiet, I mean, I would probably want to be making the call on my iPhone rather than out loud on my Apple Watch, unless I had AirPods in or something.
But if you're out for a run, I mean, not to be terrible about
if I was out for a run, I'd be screwed because I don't have a Gen 3 Apple Watch,
right?
So I don't have cellular on mine.
What I was thinking about was not so much you're being chased through the woods, but more you're out for a run and you're having chest pains. And if you, I mean, the cool thing about the Series 0 series through Series 2, I guess, you can go for a run without your iPhone, but you're not connected at that point. I mean, like if you're using it to listen to music, you're storing music on your Apple Watch, and it's able to keep track of some of your fitness metrics or performance metrics. But yeah, if you suddenly need to make an emergency call because you see something bad has happened to someone else, or you've fallen and you can't get up, you're going to be using your voice to make that call. You're not going to be using your technology.
Speaking of falling and not being able to get up, Apple Watch is also monitoring your heart rate. So it can actually keep you physically safe by letting you know about potential issues before they become, I guess, really bad. And in November 2017, Apple released an app called Apple Heart Study. They deemed it the first of its kind in a research study, and it uses Apple Watch's built-in heart rate sensor to collect data on irregular heart rhythms and then notify users who may be experiencing atrial fibrillation. And basically, it's the leading cause of strokes, and it's responsible for approximately 130,000 deaths and 750,000 hospitalizations in the United States alone every single year. Most people don't even experience any symptoms, so AFib often goes undiagnosed. But the way Apple made this whole thing work is that it calculates heart rate and rhythm using the green LED sensor on the underside of every Apple Watch. It flashes hundreds of times per second and has some light-sensitive photodiodes that can detect the actual amount of blood flowing through your wrist. And it gathers signals from 4 different parts of the wrist and combines them all together with some pretty powerful software algorithms. and is able to then isolate just the heart rhythm from background noise. And the Apple Heart Study app uses that technology to identify an irregular heart rhythm and then can let you know. So if you haven't taken a look at it yet, check out, we have a link in the show notes. You can also search in the App Store for Apple Heart Study. In this case, you can apply to use the Apple Heart Study or any of these other apps that have some of the heart metrics. You're not enrolled automatically. They, in this case, it usually asks you for your date of birth, state, that kind of information for Apple's Heart Study. I know that after Apple Heart Study came out, Apple built in the notification, the alerts to irregular heartbeat stuff into watchOS itself. Before that point, I think it was watchOS 4 that came out in. Before that point, there were specific apps that could give you those notifications and alerts, but you had to actually install a third-party app, granted access to your biometric data, that kind of stuff, ahead of time. But now it is kind of something that Apple's developing in-house.
And a quick point on a lot of that heart rate stuff, as cool as it was to be cutting edge and have your very first Apple Watch, the one that came out in April of, I guess, 2015, as neat as that was for you, the Series 0 doesn't do a lot of this hard stuff. It won't automatically notify you, and you can't be part of the heart study with the very first Apple Watch. And I know this because every day when I check my Series 0 Apple Watch, I think I really should go ahead and get a new one, because I would like for my watch to tell me if something goes wrong. And sadly, my watch it does a lot of stuff, but it's not going to do that for me. So just a heads up on that. If you're thinking that your Series 0 watch is keeping that close an eye on you, yeah, it's tracking. It's great for the health information and the workouts and things like that. But for things like the heart study and the AFib awareness, you're going to have to trade up a tiny bit.
So what do the alerts actually look like? Because I got to tell you, if I was running and then my watch is like pinging at me and I look at it, instead of seeing my mileage that I've run and my beats per minute, am I going to see like a sad looking heart? Like
I think they only show it when your heart rate is unexpectedly different. Like if you're a period of resting where your heart rate is low and then it spikes, as opposed to I'm going to start an exercise routine and my heart rate is going to gradually ramp up. I think that's how that's supposed to work.
I saw an article, and I don't have it in front of me, and I don't watch football, but I saw an article recently that said that one of the playoff games was so wild that a lot of people's heart rate sensors were going off on their Apple Watches, which I don't know if that's a true story or not, but it's a good story. But yeah, I don't think it's in the middle of a workout, right? It's more like, as Mr. Tacek said, you're sitting there minding your own, watching, I don't know, a Lifetime movie or whatever you watch. And all of a sudden...
Hey, those get emotional.
I know. Well, okay, so let's not say that then. But right, you're watching the Today Show. Anyway, it's not, generally speaking, no, the second you go out for a workout, it's not going to tell you that. Hopefully, though, it is monitoring to such a point that, if your heart spikes a lot in the workout, maybe more than it should, that it would do that kind of thing. But again, I'll need to trade up my watch before I can tell you for sure. Hey, if you want to dig deeper into some of the stuff that you just heard, show notes are always waiting for you on this show's site. And that is securemac.com/checklist. That's for today's show and all the other shows that bear the checklist name. securemac.com/checklist. If you have a question you'd like to ask or a topic you'd like to hear us hit, our email address is checklist@securemac.com. The address again is checklist@securemac.com. And if you can't remember that, please do remember this. You're listening to The Checklist, brought to you by SecureMac. And we'll talk to you next week.